Food is arguably the most important resource in Age of Empires 2, but all we see in game is just a single set of numbers. Throughout this series, we will be diving into exactly what foods each civilization would have been preparing and eating, and how well I can recreate those dishes. This is Meals of Empires. So today we are cooking for the Mayans. We are making tacos. Butternut squash will be nice and roasted by the time we're done, along with the cherry tomatoes. We will be making tortillas ourselves, and we'll be comparing against store-bought tortillas. And then we have black beans that we'll turn back on. I'll start with the black beans. You can see they're steaming a little bit. Just have enough water to cover the beans. They've been soaking overnight. Normally I'd like to do all this in one stream, but black beans just take a little bit too long. Or as Wikipedia prefers us to call them, black turtle beans. So it's your standard, let me grab one. I think everyone's familiar with these, but your standard black bean with a little white dot on it. So yeah, they've just been soaking overnight in this pot with water, enough water to cover them. And I pre-cooked them a little bit just to make sure the cooking time wasn't gonna lengthen the stream artificially. And I'm gonna add a bit of chipotle because that was definitely a spice accessible to the Mayans. Next up, we're going to be working on the butternut squash. They are going to be going into my new microwave oven. Unfortunately, it's off screen, but normally the Mayans would have been boiling these and roasting them. There's so many different ways to make good butternut squash, but I'm going to be microwaving them. Obviously, microwaves weren't accessible to the Mayans, at least in a culinary sense. But boiling it, I only have one pot. It's going to be very difficult, whereas microwaving, very accessible nowadays, and I'm just going to microwave them until they're roughly soft enough to roast. So to cut open, cut in half, slice into pieces. And I am going to stab them a little bit. I don't know if this is actually necessary or if this is just one of those things you're told, but you're told to stab things. Or I guess you're told to like put fork marks in a potato, so this will be similar. I'm going to get one stab mark right into where the seeds are, and then one or two more towards the center. So we're doing 5-minute intervals of cook time. 5 minutes at a time until they're soft enough. We're just going to use a knife to test them out. So the different squash the Mayans had accessible to them were Cucurbita pepo and Cucurbita moscata. Those are the two species, and among them, they hybridize, so there's tons of varieties between them, which include zucchini/courgette, different names for the same fruit, pumpkins, crookneck squash, cushaw squash, I've never tried, acorn squash, and butternut squash. And I chose butternut squash since it was just available, and I mean, they do cook a little bit different. Like zucchini wouldn't be cooked in a microwave generally. It's a little bit less dense, so it's easier to saute. But this, I think, will work well with the tacos, so we'll go with that. While that's going, I'm going to be starting on the tortillas. We are going to be taking the masa harina, which is nixtamalized corn flour. That means it's had lime added to it before it was ground. That breaks down the outer coating of the corn kernel and allows the starches to gelatinize and the proteins to cross-link, so it really forms into a nice dough. I smell the beans cooking now, starting to go. Let me double check they're not going to boil over. Okay, they're boiling, so I can take the lid off. And we'll give them a little stir. You can smell some of that chipotle, but right now it's very much like the smell of cooking black beans. I don't really know it's almost like a vegetal smell. Just a raw smell, I guess, is what people would generally refer to it as. Can't really smell the butternut squash yet. And we said 2 cups. I'm actually going to measure it as well because I've never made tortillas before. First time on stream. Alrighty. All right, add that to the bowl. And we said 1.5 cups of water, roughly. 354 milliliters. Oh, that's about there. Yeah, the meniscus, wow, is right on with both the water and the the 250 grams of flour. Start there. Yeah, it's already clumping. All right, it's a good sign. I like to add the water gradually. Let me get it on camera. Add the water gradually so we don't have any like really powdery stuff left behind. I find if, or at least for conventional flour, wheat flour, I find if there's like powder left behind, it's harder for it to group up with the larger dough ball at the end. So if we mix continuously throughout the process, it'll be a little bit simpler. And I'm hesitant to ever touch dough with my hands because when I'm making pie dough and I touch it with my hands, for whatever reason, touching with my hands versus the fork creates or causes the gluten to stick together and it makes it harder to roll out. But there's no gluten in corn. So I think I'll just finish this off by mashing it all together and then I'll have a better judge for its state. Yeah, look at that ball. Beautiful. Okay, we're right on schedule with what I was expecting. I was expecting to finish this right as the squash was done so I could work on the squash while that rests for 10 minutes. So squash, the only downside I find to them, other than my girlfriend not really liking them, is they kind of just ooze out their juices and they can be very difficult to clean. And when they're on your fingers, they don't feel too good. So I'm just going to use this kitchen towel because that's easier to wash than my hands, I find. And we're going to start by just cutting it in half, or I'll cut the ends off. But squash is interesting because it's a really large fruit. A lot of other plants, they don't have these massive fruits surrounding them. So the seeds can be dropped and spread around a lot easier. Whereas a squash, the fruit's kind of just dropped right next to the plant. And unless an animal is coming along to move the fruit, eat it, carry it somewhere, it's not getting dispersed much other than like, 2-3 feet from the plant. These were already pre-existing before the Mayans and Aztecs civilizations really took off. So you have to kind of wonder, okay, who did that before the humans were here? And the idea is, well, I guess you guys can guess what animal you think would have been around to spread the squash pre-human. Very interesting idea that actually was confirmed recently via fecal samples of a megafauna. So think among the megafauna. But then all the megafauna went extinct right as the humans arrived. Coincidence? And then the humans took over. And they did the same thing with, what are these called? Avocados. Alligator pears, I guess, is another name for avocado, though I've never heard that used. I guess that was like their treat after coming across the land bridge and making it all the way down to South America. These large fruits were just waiting for them. All right, so the easiest way now that we've scooped out the seeds, I find, is just to peel the skin off rather than to scoop the flesh out. This edge is still a little bit hard, surprisingly. It's pretty silly. Allspice is these guys. It's the immature fruit of this tree that then gets dried out. And the reason it's called allspice is because Europeans thought it was very similar to a bunch of spices, including like cloves and cinnamon. So yeah, this was in southern Mexico and in the Caribbean in a mid-canopy tree. And we're going to be spreading it on the squash and the tomatoes. I guess while the squash is cooling, I can slice up the tomatoes a bit. So the idea is you take a lid, you put it on top of the tomatoes, and then you slice horizontally, and you can slice multiple cherry tomatoes at the same time. Now, whether this actually saves time or not, oh, this lid edges. I don't know if that's going to work very well. All right, we'll try one and consider whether we're going to do it again. Pretty good. That's pretty much in half. My knife's doing a good job right now. Now, did that actually save much time? Maybe without my explanation, but I find it just as easy to cut them in half because there's not that many of them. I'm gonna do one more, and then I think we'll have enough to start roasting. So I have my molcajete, and that should be plenty. And we'll just try to crush. And I can really smell that spice coming out already. And it does smell like cloves and cinnamon and everything I usually associate with South Asian cooking. Let's see how much I want to actually put on. Yeah, let's just put all of it. Okay. And we'll add the salt at the end just to try to limit how much the veggies are drying out. Just spray it on there. Should be good. The salt would pull out some of the moisture. Oh yeah, I can definitely smell the allspice, and it smells fantastic. Look at that. Beautiful. And we can do multiple batches. How do these look? Pretty good. A little bit of bruising. And this guy, pretty good as well. So we'll start with just those two. I don't want to go and waste food just for the sake of presentation. So there's multiple ways we could incorporate the avocados. We could spread it as a paste on top of the tortillas once they're done. Or we could make little dices and scoop out the little avocado pieces. But I'm just going to leave them with their pits over here. And we'll decide that later. And we should be able to press our ball, make a ball, press it, and then put it on the pan in like a sort of line. And for this, I don't want to use my stainless steel pan. I'm going to use a cheap IKEA Teflon pan because the stainless steel really needs some sort of oil to prevent things from sticking to it. How many of you guys are watching just to see if I mess up? Because I am trying to do quite a few things at once. And no judgment if you guys are just watching to see if I screw up. I'm 1600 at Age of Empires, but you have no idea what my cooking skill is at actual cooking. How much does it cross over? Who knows? So we're going to have this on the bottom, a little bit of a Ziploc bag, and then another one on top. And then we smush it with our cutting board. That's the idea. We're just going to have to throw it on the avocados because we don't have a ton of space. So our first 2 tablespoon ball of dough. Should be on camera. Yeah, just roll it up into a little ball, a little tiny snowball. Plop, plop, and smush. Just putting gentle pressure for now. But I do want it to be fairly flat. There we go. Enough pressure to make the cabinets creak. And it shouldn't stick to the Ziploc. Oh, beautiful. And here is our first tortilla. Throw it on the pan. Pan doesn't seem very hot. We'll adjust the temperature as we go to make sure things aren't burning. It should take about 40 to 60 seconds per side. Beans are still feeling fairly hard, so I'm going to add a bit more water to them. So we'll go ahead and flip this one. There we go. There's some browning. That almost looks like cheese in the corner there. You guys see that? But I can officially say I've made a tortilla, which is nice. Cut up the passion fruit a little bit while we wait for the tortillas. Maybe we'll even taste one. Cooks should be allowed to just taste some of the food. Looking pretty good. Where's my spoon? It smells fantastic. Might not be the most aesthetic looking. It kind of looks like just goop with seeds. Oh my. Oh. It's actually quite bitter, but really tangy. And so much fruitful flavor in it. Oh. I don't know how to present this though. The presentation score really matters. I got a 2.5 last week and I'm trying to improve. 2.5 out of 10, not just out of 5. Like, just to give a comparison, now that I scoop the outside, will this properly sit in the spoon? Okay, that's pretty satisfying. There's not really any seeds left behind. And it's so good. So our veggies are ready. Our avocados are ready. And our beans are almost ready. I don't think I've forgotten anything. Oh, the salt. I need to add salt to the veggies. Hopefully you guys have some food nearby because this is potentially going to make you incredibly hungry. Tiny bit of beans, our tiny taco, and a few squash. She's home. Hi, Abby. Hi. Perfect timing.
Why?
I'm putting together my first taco.
So it's just tomatoes and squash and
You're already coming at this
avocado?
with such a negative concept. What's this black stuff on the squash, Abby?
What is the black stuff? Is that allspice that you were talking about?
Yes.
Is there anything else?
Salt.
Where's the potatoes?
The Incas. That was last week.
Yeah, but if the Incas have potatoes, can't they also have potatoes?
Yeah, the Mayans could have potatoes as well. We have two different tortillas here. We have the tortilla.
Should we
show the camera?
The group?
Oh, okay.
They can't really tell.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, you could put it sideways. We can slightly see the difference in texture.
This one is fluffier.
Yeah.
Like a marshmallow.
So it's like a s'more.
It's a s'more.
That's an inside-out s'more.
And this one looks like a cracker.
Yeah. So store-bought, homemade.
Okay, let me eat this one first.
Okay.
I'm not gonna eat the whole thing.
No, right. Just you take a bite. They never eat the whole thing on the cooking show.
The mic can't hear me chewing, can it?
It might. I don't know. Chat, you can let us know.
Okay. All right. They both need salt.
Okay. I was supposed to put salt in the tortilla. So you can mark me down on execution a little bit for that.
I think I prefer yours because it's fluffier.
Yeah.
But neither of these feel salted. So
okay.
If we're comparing,
yeah,
like flavor, they're both kind of
average, below average,
kind of tortilla-like, I guess.
Okay.
They're both tortillas. They're both. I don't know. What am I rating you on now?
Execution. How well I executed it based off of the general concept of the recipe.
Okay.
And then, should you serve this to your girlfriend?
Yeah, I would say execution's pretty good. Docking you for the salt.
Yeah.
And for the squash not being like fully cooked.
Yeah.
I'd say like a 7.
7 out of 10.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty good.
pretty
We're
good.
improving.
And it was like really beautiful. Like all the colors.
Presentation was
The
good.
beans are nice. They're not like too mushy, but they're also not crunchy. The flavor is pretty good, like especially with the allspice. I mean, for me, I don't like squash at all.
Right. So the fact that you ate it without jettisoning the squash immediately is a pretty good sign.
Yeah, it's good, and the tortilla is fluffy.
Yeah,
which
I like it so much more than the store-bought tortilla. Like, I don't think I'm ever gonna buy tortillas from the store ever again in my entire life. Ultimatum. And then going on to the next score, should you serve this to your girlfriends?
I mean, with improvements,
like, or no, I guess with
like
improvements.
Exactly. I mean, if your execution was better,
yeah,
like I'd eat this for dinner.
Okay, so out of 10 on that as well.
Because yeah,
still 7. You'd eat this 7 out of the 10 times I served it to you, regardless of
7 out of 10 times.
Well, I mean, that's what the score kind of represents.
If we had 10 meals.
Yeah. Like,
and
say
7 of them were this.
Well, say like one of those times you've just arrived home after traveling overseas for a while. Would you also want a taco then? Or maybe you just got out of the pool and your hands are still wet. Would you want a taco then? These are a multitude of times. And out of those 10...
I mean, we're skewing towards the positive.
Yeah.
I'd say 6.
6? Okay. To serve this for your girlfriend. It's not the fanciest meal.
Actually, it's better than the beans that we make. Because you just sometimes have beans and rice.
Beans and rice, right.
And that's like a 4.
Okay. So I should do this more often.
Plain old beans and rice.
Yeah.
It's a 5 when you add guac.
Yeah. I thought the guac improved it a little bit higher.
Maybe it's a 6 when you have guac.
You really like guac.
I think 6. I think, yeah. Because, all right. I'm going to go get gin and tonic.
All right. So Abby's going to be pretty impressed with this. She really likes candles. Mayans did not have butane lighters, but I think they could have made candles with beeswax. And the cats have a little clicker that sounds very similar to this, which is why I think they're going crazy now. Homer, what's right here? Come right into camera. I don't want to pick you up. Jumps. There they are. Hi. Some of these recipes are going to be more like actually recipes that the Sibs had, and some of it's just more off of what I can come up with based off the ingredients they had and what's used in modern day. I'm wondering if there's a better way for me to do this. So I'll just spill that in here. Beautiful. And yeah, cocoa was in the jungles of Central America, so checks out. Yeah, I think Abby will be impressed with this. Will it improve my score from a 7? Unsure. So Abby, what do you see? Describe the scene ahead of you. I told you guys she didn't like chocolate and fruit.
It's chocolate?
Yes.
That changes it.
Okay.
I mean, it looks less disgusting now that it's chocolate.
We'll see if this influences the score at all.
Smells good. Wait, this is going to influence the score?
Well, I don't know. You've given me a 7 for concept, a 7 for execution, and a 6 for should you serve this to your girlfriend. Let me get a spoon.
Is passion fruit supposed to be bitter?
It's a bit tart. Is that what you're tasting?
Yes. The chocolate helps a little bit.
No, this is what it's supposed to taste like. The other one was a bit more ripe, so it did have more fruitiness coming out. Does this negatively influence the score? Yeah. Should we just leave it out of the video?
All chocolate next time.
I told you she would say that. I told you she just prefers the chocolate, no fruit. There you go.
I'm going to wash it down.
A chaser.
Except your chocolate is bitter too.
Yeah, I think we covered everything for the Mayans. Next week will be the Slavs, I think. I'll try to have the recipe out a little bit earlier in the week. So if anyone wanted to cook along, they could. They'll have time to get all the ingredients.